please forget everything you know about cheat meals, okay? I'm gonna flip all that on its head because we have to look at real physiology, we have to look at practicality, and we have to look at what's going on at a cellular level to truly get the most out of a cheat meal, to really get what we want out of it. You're tuned into the internet's leading performance, nutrition, and fat loss channel. New videos on Tuesday, Friday, and Sunday at 7 a.m. Pacific time, and a bunch of other videos in between. Please hit that subscribe button, and right by that subscribe button, after you hit it, there's a bell icon. That bell icon allows you to turn on notifications, and therefore you end up seeing whenever I post a new video or whenever I do a live broadcast, like a Q&A or anything like that. Okay, without further ado, let's just jump right into this. Okay, so when it comes to cheat meals, it's not about having a bunch of carbohydrates, okay? So most people think that on a keto diet, a cheat meal is having a bunch of carbohydrates because you're restoring your muscle glycogen and you're basically just getting yourself a bunch of carbs because you've been deprived of them for so long, and it's helping reset your body in some ways. Okay, I want to get something out in the open, wide and clear first. Okay, when you are on a keto diet, you are not deprived of carbohydrates, okay? So you at no point need to have a cheat meal with carbohydrates to restore your carbohydrate levels, okay? Like your muscles don't need to be restored. They have plenty of carbohydrates that are generated through gluconeogenesis. So they have lots of carbohydrates that are generated from other substrates like proteins and tissues and things like that, okay? So get that out in the open. The way that you want to cheat or have a refeed on the ketogenic diet is by staying within the ketogenic spectrum, but just having some fun with it and having an influx of calories. You see, it comes down to two, or actually really three, very important hormones. Okay, one is leptin, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. One is glucagon, and of course there's insulin. Okay, these are critical and they are the pivotal points when it comes down to cheat meals. So first off, leptin. Leptin is a simple hormone. Leptin is in your fat cells and it communicates with your brain, the hypothalamus, to tell your brain whether you have enough fat on hand or not. Example, you have plenty of fat on your body. So leptin from the fat cell calls the brain and says, hey brain, we got plenty of fat here, so go ahead and rev up the metabolism. This guy's got plenty to burn. Okay? Now on the contrary, a lean person that doesn't have a lot of body fat doesn't have a lot of leptin, okay? So what's happening there is the leptin calls the brain, the hypothalamus, and says, hey brain, just so you know, we're kind of dwindling here on fat. You may want to put on the brakes with the metabolism a little bit. Okay, so what that is telling us is that the more fat we have a little bit more leptin. Well, that begs the question, why are overweight or obese or fat people usually suffering from slower metabolisms? Well, it's because they have leptin resistance, okay? So what happens is the fat cell has been calling the brain so much that the brain is just like, dude, stop. Like seriously, you're annoying me. And doesn't pick up the phone anymore. Okay, so literally there's so much leptin just being like, come on brain, hey brain, and the brain's just like, forget it. So you're leptin resistant. So even though you have a lot of leptin, the brain's just not accepting it. So your metabolism still slows down, okay? That's what we don't want. And that's what happens when people go on a keto diet for too long in a restricted calorie state. Okay, now here's what's interesting. Leptin actually stimulates glucagon. Now before I just sound like a crazy person with that, glucagon is what allows your body, let me say this very, very clear. Glucagon is what allows your body to tap into its own stored fuel. Without glucagon, you are not tapping into your stored reserves, i.e. body fat, okay? Normally, you need to have food coming in to start that process. You eat food, insulin spikes, the food digests, insulin drops, glucagon goes up, okay? The cool thing is leptin, in the higher levels of leptin, stimulate glucagon without food. So we want high levels of leptin because it's constantly telling our brain that we can burn fat. We just don't want so much that you become leptin resistant. So what we want to do is we want to spike our leptin levels with a big influx of calories, but without the carbohydrates. You see, because then what's going to happen is we're going to get the spike of leptin that we want, but we're not going to have a bunch of insulin that would normally come from carbs to turn off glucagon. So I think this warrants a quick explanation. Insulin is the opposite of glucagon. So when insulin is present, glucagon, which allows us to burn fat, goes away. Only when insulin is gone can glucagon go up, okay? So if we have a cheat meal where we have a bunch of carbs, our insulin goes way up, which means our glucagon doesn't go up. So sure, we spike our leptin, but we don't do anything to our glucagon. So we only do part of the equation. But if we go ahead and we have a big influx of calories coming from a ketogenic form, then what happens is we spike our leptin, but we don't have a whole bunch of insulin, so we still allow glucagon to go up. So we end up with a win-win. We end up with more leptin and the subsequent glucagon response that we need to burn fat, okay? So that's where it's important. So you might be wondering, like, how much in the way of calories, this and that. My usual recommendation is to have 30% more calories than you normally would, and you want to allocate it to one meal. Okay, you don't want to make it a cheat day. You have a cheat meal, and you keep it in the realms of things like, well, some of the things that I personally love. Okay, so like I'll go to town on like Keto Pizza, right? So I'll take like keto crust that I've got, and I'll load it up with a bunch of like coconut cheese and stuff like that, like good non-dairy cheese, load it up with a good amount of meat, usually get my calories up through fats so I'm not having to feel bloated. So like keto pizza is a great way. Not saying you can't have keto pizza when you're not on a cheat, but it's really easy to get your extra calories. You just have to shift that paradigm. Don't go out and splurge on a bunch of carbs. It's not doing you any good. It's just knocking you out of keto and making things harder for you. And the weight regain is so much easier when you have carbs coming out of a keto diet. So the other thing that I like to do is make fat bombs, okay? So fat bombs, although they're great meal replacements, you know, when you're just traditionally doing keto and not cheating, they're really, really good ways to get your calories up. So create fat bombs, have fun with it, and make MCTs and coconut oil the basis of them. And here's why. MCTs have been shown to literally boost your resting metabolic rate by 5%. Okay, they are so fast absorbed, like they just absorb so fast that it creates an adrenaline response within the body that actually ramps up your metabolism. So you get a win-win, spiking your metabolism, okay, through the coconut oil or through the MCTs, but you're also getting the calories from the oil, but you're also having something that tastes good. So it's like a really great way. So make a bunch of fat bombs. The other thing is, this is your time to have fun. Okay, so when it comes down to a keto cheat meal, that's the time you want to indulge on all the keto treats that are out there. Okay, the keto treats are great here and there, but when it comes down to really having some fun with it, that's when you want to have the keto cookies, that's when you want to have the keto cakes, that's when you want to enjoy all this stuff that might not be good to have with 3 square meals per day every day, but is a lot of fun, especially when you're cheating and you're doing that maybe once a week, or heck, sometimes even twice a week. Honestly, these guys are great too. So I'm a big fan of fat snacks. So these guys, good friends of mine, just so that you know, and just wanted to be able to give them a big, big shout out in this video, because this is something that I would normally eat, right? Okay, we've got high amounts of inulin fiber in there, so we're also getting the spike in our leptin that we want, the subsequent spike in glucagon, but we're also having a high degree of inulin. And the cool thing about inulin is it's a very powerful prebiotic fiber. So what this prebiotic fiber is going to do is it has a digestive effect. Okay, so things like inulin, they're going to have this digestive effect where it actually helps out the bacteria, like ones known as like Bacteroidetes. So Bacteroidetes is linked with being leaner. It's a good gram-positive bacteria. If we have more of the Bacteroidetes bacteria, then our body can burn more fat because it communicates with the brain through the enteric nervous system. I know I'm going down a rabbit hole, but essentially, you want to be cheating with things that have inulin and high degrees of prebiotic fibers like that, because it makes the situation better. So these guys are awesome. So I chatted with them over at Metabolic Health Summit. So that was when I was speaking down there with Dom D'Agostino and Mark Sisson and some of those guys. And these guys are awesome. So I've got to meet them personally after I've been eating their stuff for a while on my cheat meals. So if you want to get your hands on some fat snacks and have them on your cheat meals, just check them out down in the description. Okay, the next thing that you can really do is this is your time to have the things like the Enlightened ice creams, the Halo Tops, the Scandalous, you know, all these ice creams that are coming out there that people think they can have all the time on a keto diet, but the reality is this is what you should be doing on a cheat meal. So one of the things that I'll do is I'll take like the fat snacks and I'll put them along with some Halo Top, I'll put them along with some Enlightened, and I usually get the coconut Enlightened or the coconut Halo Top, so I'm not getting a bunch of dairy, and that just makes it a lot easier. So it's like a perfect combination, adding some cookies into your ice cream, and then you're having a cheat meal, but at least you're keeping it within the keto realm. So you want to just kind of erase the thought of the carbohydrates out of your mind. Spike your leptin along with the glucagon that you really want, burn some fat, get the effects that you can continue to lose weight and burn more fat without having to have the influx in carbohydrates that are going to make you retain a bunch of water and just cause a bunch of annoying effects. So as always, if you have ideas for future videos, or you want to know more about my cheat meal protocol and how often you should do it, I can go in more depth. I just need to hear it from you, and I need to see down in the comment section below that there's interest in there before I go take that step to create that video. So as always, keep it locked in, and I'll see you in the next video. And a big thank you to Fat Snacks for making this video possible and for bringing some awesome awareness to some amazing treats that you can have when on a keto diet. See you soon.